Welcome back to ESBR Boxing. I'm delighted to be joined by Greg Doyle, as always. Greg, we're reacting. Big fight announced. One, I think that for me was a bit of a surprise, came out of nowhere. I'm, of course, talking about the George Kambosos Jr. against Maxi Hughes fight that has been confirmed for July 29th. We're yet to get an official venue. Las Vegas has been the rumors so far. But yeah, Greg, throw it back to you, mate. This came out of nowhere for me. I didn't see this one coming, but now that I've seen it and now that it's been announced, I think it's a great fight.
Yeah, great fight, Paul. Sometimes you look at these fights and you think, why is George Kambosos fighting Maxi Hughes? But regardless of how you rate this governing body, there's only one world champion in this fight, and it's Maxi Hughes. Whether you rate the IBO or whether you don't, it's a great fight, Paul. It's a great clash of styles. And do you know something? I've got a lot of time for Maxi Hughes because he's one of these guys that nothing's been handed to him in boxing. He's had to do everything the hard way, so he thoroughly deserves this fight and more.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm glad to see him get, a fight of this magnitude. Obviously, for those that don't know, George Kambosos Jr. kind of shot the stardom, I suppose. He beat Lee Selby, obviously, in
Yeah.
Britain and got a shot at Teofimo Lopez, who had just obviously beaten Vasily Lomachenko. And then Kambosos, I think, he must have been about 10 to 1 minimum. I think about 1% of the population, if that, give him a chance against Teofimo Lopez. He did the unthinkable. He beat Lopez. He became the unified champion. And of course, then instead of taking any easy fights, he's went straight in there with Devin Haney, undisputed fight. Got beat comprehensively the first time around. Second time around, obviously, it was the same result. Haney winning a landslide points victory. But, fair play to Kambosos Jr. He showed that he's in boxing for all the right reasons. He wants the best fights, and hats off to him for this fight. Obviously, Maxi Hughes as well, Greg. For those of people that don't know, since his loss he lost to Liam Walsh, and then since then, I'll just go through a list of fighters that he has beaten. He's beaten Kid Galahad, Ryan Walsh, Giovanni Straffon, who's the guy that knocked out Tennyson, if everyone remembers, Paul
Yeah.
Highland Jr., Victor Kochuk, what's his name? Victor Kotocha. I can't know, but you know what I'm talking about.
I'm so glad you're saying that instead of me.
The fella who was unbeaten at the time beat him, and then John O'Carroll as well. There's a few names that Maxi Hughes has beaten since losing to Liam Walsh. What a run of fights! I think this is going to be his fourth or fifth fight with the IBO title on the line. Greg, coming back to you, I just want to kind of go through how you think each man can win this fight. We'll go for Maxi Hughes first. If you're Maxi Hughes and you're in his training camp, what are you working on? How can you see him winning this fight?
Although he's a fantastic fighter, I think David Haney showed the blueprint. You need to jab him, stay on the outside, and change the angles. If you keep jabbing and changing the angles against George Kambosos, he looks a bit lost. He's a bit of a rugged, come forward fighter. He wants to be all action. If you jab these guys and completely pivot and change the angles, they get a bit lost and they don't really know what to do, with the greatest of respect. And that's what Devin Haney done. So I think if Maxi Hughes is going to win this fight, I think he needs to keep it at distance and change angles. And I can see him widely outpointing George Campos if he does that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's kind of the big thing here. I think you're as you correctly alluded to there, Greg. Haney, although you'd have Devin Haney on another level than Maxi Hughes.
Yeah.
With all due respect, Devin Haney arguably number one lightweight in the division, or definitely top three. But yeah, he did show the blueprint. He showed how to beat George Kambosos Jr. But they had 24 rounds together, and Haney won at least 20 of them. I don't think that's unfair to say. Haney almost won nearly every single round. He controlled both fights so well. So yeah, I completely agree. I think though it could be a tough ask for Maxi Hughes, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I give him a chance in this fight. I definitely give him a chance in this fight. Now go on to Kambosos if you're in his camp. Obviously, he's coming in here now off two defeats. He's not taking an easy get back to winning ways fight. He's going straight in there against another guy who's near the top of the division, IBO strap, obviously, as you mentioned. How does he win this fight? Does it have to be via stoppage, or can he win on points? How do you see George Kambosos winning this?
He can win on points, Paul, but he has to outwork Maxi Hughes. He needs to be on top of him the whole fight, all night, sit on his chest, work the body, work the head, and not give him any peace whatsoever. That's the way George Kambosos can win this fight. I also think he needs to be able to hurt Maxi Hughes to get his respect, But for me, it needs to be all action. Stay on his chest, throw lots and lots of punches. I think that's how he wins the fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's shown before, against Lee Selby, not a lot of people knew who he was, thought he was just this undefeated guy coming over, didn't know how good he was, what level he fought at, and he kind of did that against Lee Selby. He brought the fight to him, boxed well, and deservedly won the fight. And against Teofimo Lopez, obviously, he got the knockdown and all early on in that fight as well. And if he can replicate the Teofimo Lopez performance, I don't see why he can't get the victory here over Maxi Hughes. We could talk about this
Yeah.
fight for a good while, Greg, but no point really talking much more about it until fight week or whatever, and the fight's almost upon us. But I can't let you leave without giving an early prediction for the fight. I know you're the prediction man as well, but this fight's just been announced. We're still weeks and weeks away from it happening. But if I had to ask you now who's winning this fight and how, who are you picking?
Maxi Hughes in points. I think that Kambosos is tight at the weight. I think that Maxi Hughes is on a phenomenal run. Yes, Kambosos is going to have the confidence in knowing that he's been in with the best lightweight in the world. He's the guy that holds the titles, whether we think he's 1, 2, 3, 4, he's the guy that holds the belts. And I think that he just may not be ready for how tricky Maxi Hughes can be and how slippery he is. I think Kambosos may look at this as a fight of, yeah, I need to win this and I'm back in the big time. But Maxi Hughes is not a fighter that you take on if you're just looking to get a win under your belt and get back to the big time. So I'm going to call the upset on this, Paul, and I think Maxi Hughes is going to outpoint him.
Interesting. I mean, I hope you're right. Obviously, from a British standpoint, I'd love to see Maxi Hughes win. Supporting British fighters. And yeah, who knows if Maxi Hughes does win? He could throw himself into those absolutely huge
Yeah.
fights. And lightweight, you know what I mean? We've just seen Davis and Garcia go at it. We've got Shakur Stevenson's up at lightweight now. Obviously, Kenny Lomachenko. Do you know what? Maxi Hughes could be in the mix there if he gets a win here against George Kambosos. He might get a chance at one of those big fights. I, for one, just for the sake of disagreement, I'm going to disagree with you. I can't.
Yeah,
I want
I
Maxi
think
Hughes to
that's
win. I want Maxi Hughes to win. I really do. But I fancy George Kambosos to win this on points. I agree with you going the distance. Um, but I think that we've seen George Kambosos at his best before against Lopez. Whether or not he can do that again, that remains to be seen. But I think that Devin Haney's just an elite fighter. Um, so I don't think that there's no disgrace losing to him, although it was wide. I
yeah.
think that Kambosos could probably bounce back here with a unanimous decision victory. But you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if it was, even a draw or something like that. It's definitely a close fight.
Yeah, I think there's one thing that we'll both agree on, Paul. See whoever wins this fight, I would either eat one meal less a week and go down to 135, or I'd eat one more and go up to 140. Because if I'm in boxing at the moment, why you would want to be like taking on Davis, Stevenson, Garcia, Haney, unless you're really confident of beating them guys, yeah, I think it's kind of a division to avoid if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Good thing that me and you never have to worry about that weight anyway.
Yeah, thank God.
All right, listen, Greg, thanks very much for that, mate. I enjoyed that. Yeah, big fight in the summer. Ford Kambosos Jr., Maxi Hughes, and yeah, thanks, Greg. I've enjoyed breaking that fight down with you.
Thanks so much for having me, Paul, as always.